Jim Beecham Jr. I've written this out, so bear with me. Father and mother are the words for God on the lips of their children. James Butler Beecham was my father, my role model, my idol, an omnibenevolent force that could make the closest of us to him feel wonderful about ourselves, as well as a complete stranger sharing an elevator, a ski lift, a boat ride, etc. He had this quintessential magnetism that would draw people into his personal space and atmosphere. His aura radiated with warmth and kindness. His easygoing and welcoming attitude would permeate all those in his current company. His personality was one of a kind. You just felt a certain safety in his presence because he took joy in taking care of everyone around him. He rarely lost a battle in fighting over who picked up the tab at dinner, and was embarrassed by the many compliments many people went out of their way to give him. He hated opening presents, yet loved to give them. I've never seen anyone who could comfortably carry on with complete strangers from every walk of life, sometimes for hours on end. He would start conversations with people you could tell didn't usually spend time with good-looking older white guys, and you could see them let their guard down as they noticed how genuine this man was. He had a blessed humanity and a genuine care for people that you don't commonly see every day. Most people look at others down on their luck without care or empathy. My dad empathized deeply with people who were treated badly, taken advantage of, or just given a bad hand in life. Dad had an inviting laugh and a smile that drew my two children right up in his face. When James III and Ellie Taylor would see him for the first few comprehensive times in their lives, it almost seemed like they knew who he was without having to be told. I remember the first times Ellie and James saw their grandfather, they just smiled at each other, and you could tell that they knew that was their kin. Their paternal grandfather they got their own mellow Beecham attitude from. He really did have that air about him. A smile and a laugh was enough to identify him from another room. Is there anyone in here who, if they heard that laugh, wouldn't know, hey, there's Jim? He had a bright, luminous spirit that reached the corner of every room in which he walked. Everyone is born of the Spirit, and his always glowed with arms reaching out for you. His was a spirit that fostered everything a good human being would strive for. He really was a magnet to everyone around him. I don't know anyone who could walk into any restaurant and have half the people eating there walk up to his table and pay their respects, often opening with, hey Beach, hey Unc, hey Jim, hey Jimmy, or there he is. We were just lucky enough to be part of his entourage. No one I've ever known had such a positive reputation for being a true gentleman, friend, father, husband, uncle, brother, mentor, so on and so on. I want to be my father, to harbor such confidence, so much self-respect, and forgiving love for everyone around him. Whenever I got worked up about anything, he would always put the world into perspective, forcing me to humble myself and always reminding me that I was a lucky son bitch. He would point to a news story on TV and would say, you could be one of those poor bastards stuck in a mine in Chile, or a homeless veteran, or drowning in a hurricane. He liked to say, we got it pretty good here, kid. As a young kid, no one could have asked for a more forgiving father. Where other fathers would have taken a belt to their kid's backside, he would always curiously inquire as to why, never how dare you. My parents did keep me in line, and if they didn't, I probably wouldn't be here now making this minute and brief overview of my own perspective of who my dad was. He should be honored by a 10-part miniseries starring Steve Martin, Jack Lemmon, Sean Connery. He probably would have preferred Clint Eastwood or Jack Palance. Dad had a certain philosophy on life. Can't everyone just please get along? He hated drama and never thrived on people's inability to be friendly to each other. He was happiest when the people who he loved were able to show their love and attention to each other in a nice and civil manner. When his family got together and enjoyed one another, he was truly content. He couldn't stand unnecessary confrontation and found solace in the freedom of untrifled air. His famous line, "Can a guy do what a guy wants to do?" became one of the most famous quotes among our family and our friends. It became almost a family trademark kept alive by the Sensky brothers, and will continue to be a great memory of how my dad lived and how he just wanted everyone to be happy, including himself. And who could blame him for everything he did for us? We should have been at his beck and call 24 hours a day, but he liked his independence. Every one of my friends loved my dad. He never looked down on anybody, no matter what. When my dad and I lived down China Cove, at the China Cove house together, just him and I can't remember a cooler bachelor pad. My God, that was the best living situation I've ever experienced. Dad was the best roommate a guy could have. Now, he would come home and I would be having one of our famous parties, and classic Dad would go upstairs, get his purple robe on, and come back downstairs to join us all for drinks. He was, for lack of better words, the coolest dad ever. I don't know anyone who found him disagreeable. He had an incredible wit about him. He could constantly make people smile with his unbeatable charm, and in the next moment turn someone into mist with true conviction and tough honesty. He had a set of ideals that never flip-flopped and couldn't stand people who performed actions as he referred to as bush league. His opinions to me were gospel. I never took another man more seriously when it came to his advice and his outlook on life. He would often tell me I was too sensitive, and that's probably true. But the truth is, I took everything he had to say, and I take it directly to heart. What I'll miss the most about my dad will be the conversations we had. We never ran out of things to talk about. We could sit for hours and laugh about all the crazy things going on in this world. If we weren't talking about new developments, we were laughing about all the hilarious situations and people we knew along the way in this life. Writing this now is actually forcing me to realize that those times are now gone. And as my tears hit the page and I write, I am filled with a glorious sense of fortune that I was able to spend all that time with him and not a moment wasted. I have no regrets because we always made it a point to get that time in, especially around the end. When he was getting weaker by the day, and I thank God his pain was taken away at 3 a.m. on Monday morning, he kept lifting his head and looking at the door in the hospital while my father, mother, his sisters, and whoever else was there waving him home. He was such a good man who God brought him from his increasing state of dis-ease to the kingdom of heaven, where he looks down on us all as I speak. Dad, you were our shining light, our patriarch, our guide, our mentor, our example, and what I strive to be like. I love you so much, and we're all going to miss you like crazy. Lord, please pour our dad a couple figures of Grey Goose on the rock while he watches us making our attempt to honor his memory. One thing that brings me comfort is that René Descartes, an 18th century philosopher, proved the existence of God with his unmoved mover theory. Using Einstein's cause and effect concept, one thing moves because another object of equal or greater force moved that object. And if you trace every chain of events back to the beginning of time, there has to be an unmoved mover that started it all, and Dad is part of that now. We almost lost him once that night, and we said our goodbyes and was yelling, "Stay with me, Dad, stay with me, Dad." He opened his eyes and we all could breathe again. He was talking to us, the doctors, and seemed to be okay. An hour later, he kept looking at the doorway, and I know he saw an angel or his family waving him home because he kept lifting his head and looking at that empty doorway. He said he wanted to see his family again, and I'm glad they were there to pick him up.